Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo TV, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Killian.
Good morning. You're welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Kieran, you want to kick off or I start? Let's start with the Punch newspaper.
All right.
Punch above the nameplate, you have the following headlines. Experts blame COVID-19 as states IJR shrink by 22% in 2 years. Experts blame COVID-19 as states IJR shrink by 22% in 2 years. Naira slides to 505 to the dollar as CBN stops forex sale to BDCs. Federal government deploys 9,100 coppers, that's to say corps members, in Northwest. Gunmen kill 344, abduct 430 in July. That's on page 2. Buhari's UK trip for virtual summit, deceptive and appalling. That's attributed to the People's Democratic Party. It is on page 11. There's an earpiece there. It says, medical education, we should address brain drain, and dollars can't treat malaria. Train doctors, says ex-CMD Mohammed. And then you have the photographs there on the front page of the corps members. That's batch B, stream 1, undergoing COVID-19 tests. This was in Gombe State. Senate drops CCT chair's assault case as judge goes to court. Borno employs 3,000 teachers, laments 5,000 schools destroyed by Boko Haram. Plateau cholera outbreak spreads and cases hit 1,315. Katsina gun runner, who is aged 21, arrested with 3.5 million arms cash and accomplices remanded. Abuja policeman guns down football fan for warning against accidental discharge. That's on pages 4 and 5. Rally, Zamfara Assembly gives 48-hour extension to Deputy Governor on summons. Kira, let's take this one first before we take orders.
All right. Let's go to the Daily Trust newspaper. Bandits, informants set self ablaze in Zamfara as 22 suspects nabbed. That's page 10. ISWAP abducts Yobe government house staff, soldier, and 2 others. Feni Ferres, Hara reporter under fire over offensive report. And the lead story says, in major policy shift, CBN cancels 2.3 trillion forex sales to BDCs. With 4 riders to that story. Practice unsustainable, as according to Emefiele, CBN governor. Mixed reactions as experts fear more pressure. Operators flaunting rules, aiding financial crimes, that's CBN governor. Abscon silent on new policy and allegations. Now, below the photo story of the Daily Trust front page. Presidency administers secrecy oath on 42 staff. It's on page 4. Cholera spreads to 18 states, claims 479 lives. The story is on page 6. On page 8, we have gunmen abduct 7 naval officers in Edo. Atiku, a Nigerian eligible for presidency, according to Adamawa state government. The story is captured fully on page 4. Bayo.
Thank you, Kire. Let's start with the story of 7 naval officers. 7 naval officers on official duty from their base in Kaduna and were heading towards Navy Engineering College Sapele came under attack and they were abducted. However, the Edo State Police Command came to their rescue and 5 of them have been rescued. They are now going after the abductors for the 2 other officers. The spokesman for the Edo State Police Command, Contus Bello, confirmed the rescue of the 3 officers. In another development, a traditional ruler in Kaduna Jabak Chiefdom, the Kopham, Dr. Danla Diget Maude, is reported to have been abducted from his farm by bandits. Dr. Maude was reported to have been visiting his farm at Gitata, which is around Panda in Nasarawa State. The abductors have already contacted the family and are demanding a ransom of about 100 million. It may be recalled that it is only about a fortnight ago when the Serkin Kajuru was similarly forcefully abducted from his palace. 24 hours later, he was returned by the bandits with apologies and expressed contrition that they had abducted the traditional ruler. Meanwhile, suspected gun runners for bandits and 2 others have been remanded in a correctional center in Katsina. Police who intercepted them on a routine stop and search. In fact, the 2 of them were coming on a motorcycle, and when they searched them, they find the sum of 3,445,000 on them. And they confessed after investigation that it was proceeds from sale of AK-47 rifles and live ammunition to bandits in Regina Forest along Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. When they were taken to the magistrate court in Katsina, the magistrate court ordered them to be remanded in prison custody until the police concludes their investigation. 2 other persons were also arrested also for the same being informers to bandits. And in Zamfara, specifically in Dansauda, in Maru local government area, the security men went under suspected informers of bandits. One of them was arrested and taken into custody. He attempted to wrestle the rifle from the hand of the soldier, and in the process shot at a jerrycan of fuel and set himself ablaze. Eventually, when the case went on, 22 other persons were also interdicted for involvement in castle rustle sales, stolen phones, and motorcycles, which they are in the habit of selling to criminal bandits. 3 undergraduates who are described as internet fraudsters have barred various suspended jail terms. One of them is said to be a student of the Kwara State University of Ilorin and was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment with suspension for 1 year. He was involved in what has been described as internet love scam and internet fraud. He is said to forfeit to government the iPhone, laptop, and the sums of money, about 325,000, that was recovered from him. A second convict was also a student of Kwara State Polytechnic Ilorin. He backed 6 months term and is to forfeit a 2014 Toyota Venza, 2 iPhones, and a sum of 404,000 to the federal government. There is a third one. He is also of the Kwara State University, Maliti, and internet fraud has been a factor that has been very devious in the Ilorin metropolis capital. Also, concerns about cult activities has been on the high in the Kwara State capital. Governor Nyesom Wike has alleged call for national unity, stressing that God made no mistake in bringing people of different diverse culture under one nation, Nigeria. He advised, however, that Nigerians must be protected against violent secessionist agitators. The governor, who was receiving the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, on a courtesy visit, observed that war against insecurity suffered a setback because army officers became partisan and instead of being professional. He therefore advised that those agitating against perceived injustices and seeking to address their grievances should not adopt violence, because violence does not pay. He also enjoined the army to be very professional so that they can hold their integrity intact. He specifically asserted that during the 2019 election, some officers of the army were actually seen to be biased, according to Governor Nyesom Wike. The other matter of concern is that Kaduna State government yesterday was reported to have suspended a resumption of schools indefinitely. But the Commissioner for Education, Dr. Shehu Makarifi, has denied that. He said what was done was to extend the holiday period for only a matter of 3 weeks. And therefore, the information that was passed, that the schools have been closed indefinitely, was wrong and deliberate misinformation to mislead persons in Kaduna State. The commissioner indicated that those who were behind that information had even said that Governor Nasiru El-Rufai made the revelation while he was holding meeting with stakeholders. He says there was no meeting with no stakeholders and no such announcement was made by the governor. So how did that information get out?
Well, it's part of what we get in this part of the world. There is no secrecy in government, you know, because we have seen a situation where meetings are held, and even before the meeting, you know, dismisses, information has gone out as to the deliberations, you know, in such meetings. So it's not even the first time, you know, it's been happening, because there are persons, you know, who are working for certain persons or organizations, you know, who are also part of government. That has happened in the past. So this is not the first time we are hearing such leakages of information.
But the information, according to the commissioner, was that a holiday period has been extended for 3 weeks. But the report put in the domain was that schools were to remain closed indefinitely.
That is misinformation, totally different from what they... Well, what we have on the list story here actually is the topic that we're going to be deliberating on this morning. But this issue of ISWAP abducting Yobe State government house staff and a soldier and 2 others. I saw 3 of them paraded in one of the platforms on the social media yesterday.
Well, that came to me as a surprise, because the activities of ISWAP and even Boko Haram had gone under for a long time. This begins to point to the fact that they are gradually coming up again. ISWAP is supposed to be Islamic State in West Africa, a branch of ISIS that has been having the activities in Iran, across Iraq, up to even in Jordan, and which is the other country. So they are having links in Mali, and now they have a strong foothold in Nigeria. This is the danger now. If you notice that the activities of bandits that have now resorted to capturing students in schools are beginning to have a link with some of these ISWAs. And Niger State Governor recently also drew attention to that we need to be very, very careful, because the ISWA people are now spreading their tentacles from northeast across now to northwest.
Okay, Bayo, I'd like to appreciate you being around today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll go ahead with our conversation segment. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, as a prompt for our first topic in the conversation segment today, which is on resolutions from the latest meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, let's listen into our correspondent, Leah Katung Babatunde.
It is the 280th edition of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting and the third for the year 2021. The economic fundamentals show a slow but steady recovery. However, concerns around the foreign exchange market have visibly peaked among committee members. Over 5,000 registered Bureau de Change operators are active in the Nigerian space, with a lot more on the queue for approval. A visibly disturbed governor of the CBN says despite selling $110 million weekly to the operators, they have become accessories to illicit financial flows, posing a risk to the economy.
As for those foreign organizations involved, we will report them to their regulators. We will write to those organizations seeking their understanding, and that they must desist. If they seek to operate in Nigeria, they must go through the right channels through which they must procure either foreign exchange or procure Naira for their domestic operations.
He says unsatisfied foreign exchange customers should call 0700 2255226 or send an email with your concerns to the Apex Bank using cpd@cbn.gov.ng. The bank will also commence the issuance and transactions of the Nigerian digital currency or the e-Naira from October 2021, but transactions in cryptocurrencies remain banned in the country.
The e-Naira is being introduced to complement existing types of monies and not to replace them. I would emphasize that cryptocurrencies are private monies which are not regulated by any regulatory authority. Therefore, using them is your own individual decision.
The outcomes of the meeting include a decision to work with other policymakers in bridging the gap between certificates and skills, improving food security, and enhancing productivity to push economic growth above population growth. The committee maintained its policy stance and warned beneficiaries of CBN's interventions against default in repayment.
Well, thank you, Leah, for that background report. And now joining us in the studio is Professor Michael Baden. He's a professor of economics at the University of Benin and the member CBN Monetary Policy Committee. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure.
Also with us in the studio in Abuja here is Niyi Akinsiju, the financial and investment analyst. Niyi, it's good to see you again.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and privilege.
All right, gentlemen, our delight to have you both in our studios. You're, of course, regulars on Good Morning Nigeria. When we are taking on economic and financial matters, a couple of days ago, we had the benefit of the attendance of Professor Michael Baden here. We were discussing how to manage inflation and the spike in the rate of forex in our country, and a number of resolutions taken by the Monetary Policy Committee tend to address those issues. Let's just begin by getting some clarification now that you are here with us in the studios. The two of them, of course, that are very pertinent, other than the rates that have been either retained as well as other political economic matters. What the CBN governor was saying a while ago in our clip about e-money, starting off in e-Naira rather, starting off in October this year, that's 2021, and of course the prohibition of sales of forex to BDCs. But let's begin with e-Naira. What is e-Naira and how is it different from cryptocurrency?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley. E-Naira is a kind of electronic money, a specific form of electronic money that that is aimed at complementing the existing, paper money in circulation. I think central banks are being encouraged to introduce it now, also as a complement of the existing cashless policy, electronic transfers, receipts of funds. And it is not a currency for speculation, or trading, as it were, by individuals, like the cryptocurrency is. And the e-Naira is going to be issued by the sole monetary authority, that is Central Bank of Nigeria. Whereas the cryptocurrency is issued by private individuals as a kind of asset, which they can trade. And of course, they also try to turn it into a medium of exchange, which it is not supposed to be. If it were purely, a trading asset, perhaps there would be no issues. But when privately issued, digital currency, as it were, is now being used in competition with the officially recognized, medium of exchange in a country. I think that's where issues come up. And it's the private individuals that are issuing them actually are relatively unknown. They operate in relative secrecy because of the kind of technology which they use. I think the excitement about cryptocurrency is the fact that it's being considered as an asset by those who get involved in it and used for trading, which means the value can go up and then they make money, but when the value goes down, they lose money. There is that inherent risk. And so the e-Naira that is going to be introduced by the bank is such that it will facilitate, transfers, payments, through the electronic platform. In other words, actually, it's a kind of, it's an instrument to further, actualize the objective of cashless policy in the country. An individual will be issued, will have a kind of digital wallet. He already or she already has a bank account. Part of that bank account can, at the volition of the depositor or the customer, be converted into an e-wallet, through which transactions can be made by the individual. So central bank issues it, and it has the full weight of the law, unlike the cryptocurrency, which anonymous individuals issue, and which also encourages fraudulent practices, fraudulent activities, facilitation of illicit financial flows, proceeds from corrupt practices and all that.
Well, I think as time goes on, Councillor, we might have a full program on the e-money.
That's right.
Because the Central Bank of Nigeria actually frowned, initially, when many Nigerians got involved with the cryptocurrency dealings, but now that they have decided to bring in e-money, perhaps it will now take over from what we used to know as a cryptocurrency in Nigeria. Now let's turn to NTA. NTA, the CBN Monetary Policy Committee meeting took far-reaching decisions as it concerns access to foreign exchange. And of course, now saying that the BDCs should not now be part of that arrangement. But some argue also that the BDCs have a better network, distribution capacity, the convenience, potency, and of course the ability to serve the critical retail segment of the society. Now, what is your view about this very critical decision taken by the CBN?
Very, very critical. I am one of those that actually commend the CBN for taking this decision. First, you have to understand the context for the creation of CBN, of the BDCs. Principally, they were supposed to be retailers of foreign currencies, and in doing that, they are supposed to be responsible for mopping, trickles of foreign exchange that comes into the country. And that's why normally BDCs are popular around airports, foreign arrivals at airports. That would be the first point of call where you exchange the little you have. It is from that mop-up that they also create their own assets to exchange for Naira, for local currency, as it were. But you have seen a departure from that. In fact, it's not original. That's a normal function of the BDC. You have now seen a departure where they now depend on the CBN as official conduit, for their own supplies. It's a distortion, as far as I'm concerned, because when you now see $5.7 billion being distributed to Nigerians through the CBA, the BDC's network, you want to question what value, we are deriving from that $5.7 billion. And especially for me, I can't see a difference between BDCs and the parallel market operators. Because wherever you see a constellation, a cluster of BDCs, you also see a cluster of parallel market operators. So there's a confusion too. And the truth is that if you patronize the BDCs, you would, the value or the rate that you take for your foreign exchange is as if it's the parallel market rate. So there's no difference. And the fact of the matter is that here you have an entity or entities that are supposed to be part of the official protocol of foreign exchange distribution and all that access, being actually more of a peripheral operator, as acting in the parallel market segment. So for me, there's a lot of confusion, And then the revelation by the CBN governor is also not exactly heartwarming, especially where you have entities in the country, international bodies, actively engaging these BDCs. They are not engaging the BDCs. It's the parallel market that they are engaging. Because what it means is that they bring in their money, they first go to the BDCs to exchange at parallel market rates. And I think that is the concern of the CBN governor. Those official entities are supposed to transact business, at the level of the I&E, the investors and export market segment, of the foreign exchange. So the foreign exchange market. So when you now see embassies as claimed by the CBN governor, embassies, international financial development organization, in fact, that is also touching because these are people that are supposed to understand basic rules and best practices, global best practices. And when at the level of the CBN governor, such allegations are being made, then means something is really wrong, So it does mean that a huge quantum of foreign exchange transaction is being conducted outside the official market. And the CBN is responsible for regulating the market, it's responsible for monitoring the market. When you have such quantum of business happening outside the market, it means that the CBN itself cannot even make projections on what they want to do in terms of policy positions and all that.
Neyi Akinseju, thank you very much there for your perspective. Professor Mike Obada, help us understand what the CBN is seeking to achieve through its monetary policy committee meeting decision on the BDCs having access to Forex from the central bank. Just what is at play here?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley. I think the issue is that, well, I fully associate myself with the perspectives of Neyi. The issue is that the BDCs have outlived their usefulness. The BDCs, rather than assisting the monetary authority to achieve the objective of, sound management, proper management of foreign exchange reserves, and ensuring the stability of the Naira, the BDCs are now helping to accentuate instability of the exchange rate. And like Neyi, alluded to, the BDCs at the beginning were, introduced to allow, small customers, micro firms, individuals to access foreign exchange at in a very convenient way. Very convenient way. And at the beginning, the BDCs were not supposed to access official foreign exchange. They were introduced, say, you are part of the official foreign exchange market, then you can, obtain funds from the autonomous foreign exchange market. Like Ni rightly said, somebody is coming to the country at the airport, sells dollars to you, take naira. You maybe some other, actors in the system also have foreign exchange to sell. They go to BDCs at rates, which are not so misaligned, or deviate from the official foreign exchange rate. And that was the essence. So the purpose was that there should be minimal documentation. They observed bureaucracies of the deposit money banks in selling foreign exchange. We tend to discourage, economic agents that need foreign exchange would not be there. You can walk into a bureau station within a few minutes or even seconds. You complete your transactions and you go away. And they were supposed to be dealing in, small quantities of foreign exchange, less than $5,000. But after a few years, these BDCs started agitating, to be allowed to have access to the official funds coming from the central bank. And also in the context of reforms, the central bank, acceded to their request and brought them into the official foreign exchange market and started providing foreign exchange for them. But not long after that one, what was observed was that the BDC operators started misbehaving, perpetuating fraudulent, practices and other malpractices. And very importantly, the BDCs started colluding with the black market operators, which, Neil Riley said that as of today, what they are doing is not different from the parallel market operators. The misbehaviors of BDCs started long ago, a few years after they were introduced. In fact, this point of their engagement in fraud and then collusion with the parallel market, I fully documented in my book titled Foreign Exchange Market and the Balance of Payments, published in 2013. So right from then, they've not, moved away from their misbehaviors. And as of today, like Niyi rightly said, their activities are like those of the parallel market or black market operators. Yet, the central bank sells, foreign exchange to them at the investors and exporters window and expect them to sell to the general public at a margin, small margin, which will enable them to keep afloat, make some profit, and so on. But rather, once they get the foreign exchange, they go to their colleagues in the black market, they reach a deal, the kind of monopolistic practice, and they are selling at that rate. Which means then that, the initial objectives of setting them up have been defeated. And so they are not in a position as of now to assist the monetary authority, central bank, to achieve its objective of stabilizing the exchange rate, efficient management of the foreign exchange reserves. And therefore, there is no raison d'etat for them to continue to exist. And so what the central bank, seeks to achieve here is that, well, since the BDCs are no longer serving the purpose for which they were set up, then we will stop giving them foreign exchange, and the foreign exchange hitherto given to them will now be given to the deposit money banks, commercial banks. And that's why, to effectively implement that one, commercial banks are being directed. I know some of them already have foreign exchange desks in their organizations. They are being directed to now have special desks, in their key branches dedicated to transactions in small, quantities of foreign exchange, from customers. And central bank, is stepping up its monitoring mechanism, because that's critical. We know that in the past, even deposit money banks had engaged in round tripping, and so on. And they were doing that one through the BDCs. So all that one will stop. And so once this directive takes full effect, it has actually taken effect, then desks will be set up in various banks, dedicated, and very strong monitoring will be done. In fact, the governor yesterday read out a free toll telephone number that any aggrieved customer can quickly call, and then the Consumer Protection Department will take it up immediately. He also gave out the email address. Assuming somebody is trying to make a call, network is bad, you can quickly find a way to email. So mechanisms are being put in place to ensure that the system, the reform, as it were, that is being implemented now, works very well in the interest of the public that sell foreign exchange or buy foreign exchange in small quantities.
Okay, I'm sure that once the implementation takes off fully, we'll begin to see how it works out. I'm just wondering, if the CBN says, look, we're no longer selling Forex to you as BDCs, that doesn't mean the end of BDCs.
We're not
It doesn't mean that their licenses
will not be issued.
No fresh licenses. But the existing licenses have not been revoked either. So they will continue to find them wherever they were, however they can source their forex. Now, incidentally, this was part of our conversation yesterday. It was part 2 of our conversation on managing inflation and forex. And one of the issues that came up, actually, to say that, look, commercial banks themselves should source their forex rather than waiting for the central bank. So why are you now requesting, why is the central bank now saying, okay, commercial banks or money deposit banks, we are going to be giving you more funds? Why are commercial banks not tapping into export proceeds for their access to forex? In the meantime, everybody's going to sit back now. You will see. I don't know how this is going to work out, because part of the issues that we had in the past had to do with round tripping from some commercial banks.
Yeah, it's a going engagement, and but the truth also is that the commercial banks also perform certain functions that the CBN needs their services. They open letter of credits. They act on behalf of customers, for foreign exchange transactions. So to that extent, they are actually providing services on behalf of the CBN, And of course, I think it's natural that they should also find a way of sourcing their funds. It makes the difference, the margin, they collect, even more impressive when they source outside the CBN. But as the truth of the matter is, I think the CBN should continue to encourage Nigerian banks, non-deposit banks, to source their funds. But again, we have a legacy structural limitations in terms of productivity. Yeah. We are yet to be able to properly address those limitations that had impacted the production, threshold in Nigeria, so much that our companies can be competitive enough globally and be able to raise enough, foreign exchange and bring into the country. We can sit down here and figure out That's the issue.
And again, many people are also thinking of a little confusion that might be observed when commercial banks are now the sole agents, for accessing foreign exchange. Now the central bank has a mechanism according to Professor Biden that persons could call central bank and lay complaints if they are mistreated by any commercial bank. For me, there could be some little confusion there. Another aspect I'd like Professor Biden to comment on is the aspect of having repercussion on the value of the naira. This critical decision by the central bank having repercussion on the value of the naira.
Well, thank you very much, Kirian. But let me first of all clarify the position or the question as to why deposit money banks can't source funds outside the CBN. Well, they do that. And foreign exchange institution, and they have been, getting some funds from autonomous sources, from exports. Funds obtained from non-oil exports, the exporters deposit in their domiciliary accounts, to which they have free access anytime if they want to import raw materials or equipment and so on. So commercial banks, are already doing that. And that's the amount of money, the domiciliary account is very large, in the country, both for individuals and also for firms, who have deposited. So now what has happened is that in the absence of the BDCs, the commercial banks, we have more, opportunities to receive funds from autonomous sources. That's outside the commercial, outside the, central bank. What was going to the BDCs will go to them. So that one will also boost what they now get outside the central bank, as it were.
As we are saying, these are matters that once the operationalization starts, we will see how it works. The convenience of BDCs is one, they operate 24/7 virtually. I mean, you don't have banks operating 24/7 in Nigeria. Any day, anytime, in any major city in Nigeria, you can always walk in there and then make your forex transaction. But part of what has emerged from all of this is virtually like,
the goal of nature conservation is to protect flora and fauna species from extinction, maintaining and restoring habitats, enhancing ecosystem, and protecting biological diversity. The IUCN Red List Species Conservation is intended to be an easily and widely understood international system for classifying species at high risk of global extinction. The IUCN Red List informs
consular law forbid you from engaging in businesses. So how did we get to a situation? Obviously, I don't know whether they are taking advantage of some other piece of legislation of free entry and free exit of your funds. But how did we get to a situation where embassies are transacting forex businesses with BDCs, or even the parallel market, which rates are not any different, instead of using the official, you go to a commercial bank and then you get your documentation sorted out. How did we get to this situation before the decision was taken?
Yeah, I will just clarify this before answering Kirian's questions. I think perhaps the reason is that the embassies, international organizations are taking advantage of the fact that the BDCs are part of the official foreign exchange market. But if the BDCs were operating as expected, obtain foreign exchange and sell at the margin expected, and the embassies, international organizations go there, there probably will be no issue. But it's because of the misbehavior of the BDCs that they've now transformed from being part of the official market to being part of the parallel market, and then charging and selling foreign exchange at parallel market rates. I think that's where the issue comes up. And now that, the central bank has stopped allocating or giving them foreign exchange, the international organizations and their colleagues, have no option other than to go to the commercial banks.
It's the Junior Niger Shopping
I'm not
Festival.
sure they will want to take
Get
the risk
amazing
of going to the parallel market where they could lose all their money. They could be issued fake naira, in exchange for their dollars and so on and so forth. That's a major problem in the parallel market. And the secrecy, because it's an illegal market, the transactions are done secretly. I'm not sure all those diplomatic missions, organizations will want to go and hide somewhere, obscure place, and be transacting. So they definitely should now go to the commercial banks and do their business. The question asked by Kirian as to the probable impact on the exchange rate. Well, I will say that the impact will not be different from what would have prevailed if only the parallel market existed. If there were no BDCs, the impact will not be different. What it means actually is that formally the BDC operators or the BDCs have become part of the parallel market. So they will behave like the parallel market operators are behaving, and their sources of funding are now limited. And to that extent, for the exchange rate may temporarily move up. But after some time, a few months, the rates will come down. It may go up because some desperate, economic agents might still want to go there and buy foreign exchange at whatever cost because of their motives, which may not be pure. If they are facilitating bribes, or illicit financial outflows, then they may want to buy at any cost. And I want to assure Nigerians that we should not worry so much about the activities of the parallel market. The parallel market in Nigeria is a very small segment of the totality of exchange.
In the next few decades, we need to do something unprecedented, achieve a sustainable existence on Earth. But how do we do it? We can start by understanding how we got to this point. 20,000 years ago, humankind consisted of less than 1 million hunter-gatherers across the globe. We lived within the resources on offer, in balance with nature. A strategy that could
exports are very limited. So the quantum of foreign exchange available to the country is very limited, unlike United States of America or United Kingdom or even the European Union, where their currencies also serve as their domestic currency. Their currencies serve a dual purpose, their domestic transactions and also international transactions. They have some flexibility there. But Nigeria and other developing countries whose currencies are not convertible, they don't have that one. Unless you sell goods, exports, or you sell services abroad, we cannot earn. So the quantity of currency that we have must be managed. And so in the short term, the exchange rate may rise. But with commercial banks, assuming they behave the way we expect, selling foreign exchange, and then whatever was going to BDCs now going to them, then invariably the exchange rate should stabilize. I believe this may have a salutary effect on the value of the naira.
You know, the situation in Nigeria has always been that what goes up doesn't come down. So this aspect of the exchange rates coming down within a few months or thereabouts could be difficult, except perhaps there is any measure.
In the parallel markets,
exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And we shouldn't bother about that one. In the light of the analysis I've done, the parallel market will continue to exist until Nigeria's economy becomes very productive. You know, non-oil exports that are predictable, we have them, and we are earning foreign exchange. That one will stabilize the exchange rate, and that in itself may lead to a phasing out of the parallel market. It becomes irrelevant.
Well, Professor Abada, thank you very much. Your optimism, we hope, is realized in future. Because our national experience has been such that activities on the parallel market are often used for pricing purposes of goods and services. People will tell you, don't you see the value of the naira now? It's already 505. I mean, I read when we were reading our newspaper review this morning, what people say is 505 now, but nobody is talking about the I&E window, which is around about 410 or thereabout. Everybody keeps referring to the parallel market until such a time, of course, we're able to, as you said, you know, get down to the official exchange rate with just a little margin for BDCs or parallel market. That's one. But are we being fair to ourselves, Niyi, when we keep saying that we are not producing enough, we are not exporting enough, and therefore forex inflows are limited? I'm asking this question against the background of what has been said. Our guests say this, and it's also, again, I believe, our lived experience. Are we capturing sufficiently activities that are usually under the radar? It is often said that much of West Africa, if not Central Africa, depends on Nigeria. And we've been hearing lately that some of the food crops that we produce also go out to West Africa and Central Africa. I asked the question the other day, when these things are going out, even the fuel that we import, if you say we have imported 100 million liters of fuel today, all of it is not consumed in Nigeria. Some of it we find its way up to Sudan. Yeah. And the question I've asked is, when these goods go out, when these food crops go out, the people who receive, do they pay in sand or in cowrie shares? Don't they, are we, I don't know, are we getting the metrics right so that we know precisely or find a way of encouraging the inflows? Because when these persons, if West Africa, Kira, you understand what I'm saying? Exactly. If West Africa or Central Africa relies essentially on Nigeria for a number of their critical goods, and they pay for these goods.
Don't they pay in foreign currency?
Yes.
As well?
In which currency do they transact the business?
They first exchange at the borders. They first turn their CFA, mostly, you know, they first turn their exchange their CFA to naira at the border, informal markets that is not captured, you know. The truth of it is that transactions along that line is principally driven by informal sector. So they are not properly registered, they are not properly captured, you know. So to that extent, the CBN cannot, you know, impact any form of influence on them. That's the truth. And
how do we capture them? That's the...
Yeah, it's still about formalizing that productivity issue, you know. If you have more Nigerian companies being involved in formal exportation of the grains you are talking about, then it goes, whatever is their earning, you know, goes into the CBN pockets. And that is captured. It will be recorded, you know. It will determine the basic indices, you know, to determine what will be the rate of the naira to the dollar, because this money is, the inflow is coming in and you are capturing them live. But the problem now is you have a Musa or Abayomi somewhere along the borders of Seme, you know, Troilela and all that, you know, doing this transaction. And in fact, for them, there's no difference between the borders of Nigeria and Niger and all that. So it's so much informality. So there's still that need first to also formalize these transactions. And the only way you can do that is to encourage the Nigerian corporate bodies, registered Nigerian bodies, to identify these opportunities. Because these are opportunities. So in that way, they would now be able to exactly capture whatever is the value of this.
All right, well, on an optimistic note, from Professor Badan, let's hope that it will not be difficult or cumbersome to access foreign exchange from commercial banks in Nigeria, because now, as this is pointed out, these commercial banks don't operate 24 hours a day.
Don't forget to smile, if not see.
Now, we are rounding off this segment of our conversation, and I'd like to appreciate both of you for throwing more light on the decisions made by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Professor Badan, thank you for being here this morning. Nia Kinsiju, is also a pleasure hosting you again on this platform. All right. You are watching Good Morning Nigeria and the network service of the NTA. We are taking a short break now, but when we come back, we shall be focusing our attention on the second conversation segment of the program. Please stay with us.
Okay, no problem.
You can get more news and updates on www.nta.ng or follow us on our Twitter handle at NTA News Now. You can also like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/NTA Network News. And also stay connected and subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Also remember to watch our news live streaming at www.nta.ng/live.
Mr. Collins, it's like you do mistake. It's 1-5 you sent to me. What happened? Who is this?
Well, you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and let's turn our attention now to the second issue for today.
All right, now the World Bank assisted state fiscal transparency, accountability and sustainability program seeks to instill, as it were, a common set of fiscal behavior and standards in the states, as well as encourage widespread adoption of good practices in fiscal and public financial management across the states of the Federation while respecting their financial autonomy. We have guests with us in the studio now to drill into this issue.
And joining us is the National Coordinator, State Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program for Reserve, Stephen Okauru. We thank you for being here this morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, we also have the Director-General of the Governors Forum, Asishana Okauru. Welcome to the program.
I got niggas in Baruch, they be rapping for a nigga. I got niggas out of Festa, where I'm from, where the best.
Program task team leader from
Young man, can we know you please? What is your name?
Pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me.
Dino Melai.
All right.
Okay,
let's just
so
begin
what is your
first by
talent?
having an understanding of what the State Fiscal Transparency and Accountability Sustainability Program it's all about.
So you mean music is your talent?
What is this all about in the first instance?
Go on and showcase your talents. Good luck.
Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, for SFTAS for short, is a program that evolved from government intervention during the 2015-2016 fiscal crisis in the states, where states were unable to meet some of their maturing and recurring expenses. The federal government had to intervene with a set of large financial assistance. In the first place, what was done was that the federal government had to restructure the debts of 23 states, current debt, short-term loan debts of 23 states into long-term bonds guaranteed by the federal government. Now, towards 2016, the situation still did not get too well, and the federal government had to support with the budget support facility. The budget support facility was to 35 states, except Lagos, to enable states to meet their maturing and recurring expenditure. So the State Fiscal Transparency Accountability Sustainability Program
Stop!
a program that
Young man,
evolved
are you sure
from
you are
this
here for this
assistance.
audition?
And to enable the
Then what are you
budget
singing?
support
I can't see
facility,
anything reasonable.
attain the purposes.
Shine your
What was done was
Shine my
the states
eyes.
agreed
Yeah.
to
Oh yeah, don't shine my eyes. Continue.
package. And that package was involved 22 points. And
Stop. This one you kept emphasizing on the refusal of the pigeons to fly in the hands of the president. You think say it's easy to fly?
And because of that,
So you mean you can fly?
that the state needed more time.
Oh yeah, Ngwanu, fly. Make this one where they fly like this. You be winch?
Yeah.
Wow.
The state,
No
fiscal
wonder.
transparency
I love the way you fly. Great talent.
So
Please keep it up.
It's a program that is put
So Dino
in place
Melaye,
to
apart
enable
from singing
states
and flying, which
improve
other
on
talent
their
do you have?
accountability, improve on their transparency, improve on their sustainability.
So you
when it
mean you
has to
can
do with
dance?
debts, and as well also
What a bunch of
improve on
talent.
their
Please go
internally
ahead.
generated revenue. There are two components of this program. We have the component that has to do with the
Wow,
delivery
that was
of
so
technical
beautiful.
assistance, that's
I love
capacity
your
building
energy. I love
for
your
key
charisma.
states,
I love the way you carry yourself.
institutions.
That was so
And we also
impressive.
have the-
My brother,
the
them born you with
component
talent.
that has to do with the
So if they not born you with talent,
granting
where you
of
go learn them?
assistance
Gandu Nasarawa Primary School.
granting
Wow.
of assistance to
From
states.
there, I begin train myself.
Performance
Oga
grant
Dino
based on
Melaye,
performance.
this one way sabi
Now,
dance like
there
this.
are
I don't
also
say you go
other
sabi tweet
structures
well.
involved.
Oh yeah,
At the
tweet
national
for us.
level,
Now there, our
we
wahala
have
must
a
start
national
to.
steering committee,
Atawa.
and we also have the Minister of Finance coordinating the implementation, while the states also have the implementing agencies. The important thing to note here is that there are agencies that work with the Prime Minister of Finance in delivering this program. In particular, the Office of the Director-General for the Federation is responsible for the verification of results of programs that are undertaken by states. The Office of the Governors Forum is also responsible for delivering technical assistance. We also have the Debt Management Office that provides technical assistance for debt-related DLIs, what we call disbursement link indicators. We also have the PSIN that is also responsible for delivering technical assistance, that is capacity building, as it relates to some of the DLIs. So generally, the intention of the program is to improve the management of public finances at the subnational levels. Yes.
Okay. All right, let's bring in Yoman Lee here. What are the specific disbursement link indicators states must meet before they receive the grants?
Yes. So in order for states to receive the performance-based grants, they need to do two things. So every year, they need to meet what we call the annual eligibility criteria, which is to publish their annual budgets and audited financial statements. Now, this seems very simple, but actually, before the program, very few states were doing this. And now, in the first year of the program, we had 24 states meeting this eligibility criteria. Last year, we had 36 states publishing the audited financial statements, so the foundations of fiscal transparency. Now, once these states meet this eligibility criteria, how much they get depends on how many results, which we call disbursement-linked indicators, they achieve. Now, these indicators relate to revenues, to expenditures, to debt management, really all the things that they agree to do through the fiscal sustainability plan. Now, just to bring it to life, just to show that these results, these are very tangible results. We're not just talking about reforms for the sake of reforms. So we have now about 2/3 of states having enacted legislation on procurement, on revenue, on debt, on audit. We have several states starting to clear their domestic expenditure arrears. So this means paying billions of naira of what they owe to contractors, to civil servants, to pensioners. We have states taking out payroll fraud by using biometric and bank verification numbers. So these are real results that have an impact on citizens. And then last year, the states really stepped up. So there were two results they had to achieve. And we had all 36 states, first of all, passing amended 2020 budgets, where they protected social spending and appropriated at least 10% of their budget towards COVID-19 response. And we had also 36 states implementing structured tax compliance relief programs to help individuals and SMEs impacted by COVID-19. So those are the kind of results that states have to achieve in order to get their performance-based grants.
All right, thank you, Yuman Lee. Let's bring in Mr. Asishana Okauru. Well, let's get further clarification on what this is all about, because we hear about the bailout funds that were disbursed some years ago, and there are still controversies around that from states. Some will tell you, no, the bailout wasn't a gift from the federal government, that it was part of what the states had earned sometime in the past. And then from time to time, we keep seeing figures or data being published about the level of indebtedness of states. You find Lagos being mentioned as one of the most indebted states. Rivers is also there. So is this about this whole program? Is it about the bailout? Is it about external indebtedness? Is it about internal indebtedness? What is it all about?
Thank you. You're right. Bailout wasn't a gift to the states. I must tell you, over time, the states have faced very challenging physical conditions. And like Okon, who's the national director, and of course the designer of this project, Yoman, I've explained, it became necessary for the federal government to approach the World Bank, and this program was put in place for the benefit of the states. 750 million involved, 700 of that for technical. It's supposed to come to the federal government as a loan, but and given to the states based on how they perform as grants. The 50 million part was supposed to serve as technical assistance. So what what the forum basically did was to engage the Nigerian Governors Forum Secretariat, which, as you know, is the technical arm of the forum, to help package technical assistance for the states. We basically leveraged on what we've always done and what we've done for a number of other development partners, and in fact that we do for states directly. In all the areas they've mentioned, whether it's around e-procurement, revenue generation, audit, or putting laws in place, or ensuring that the agencies, the relevant institutional agencies are working well. It's been the responsibility of the Nigerian Governors Forum Secretariat to put together subject matter experts to help drive this. And like you heard from Yoma, there's been, excuse me, there's been significant improvement over time. And as things stand today, I think all the states, and in fact all our principals, the governors, have taken ownership of this program. And I just see this enhancing the physical health of the country. It's true that a number of the states are heavily indebted. The states are, that's probably arguably the biggest challenge of most of the states today. But we think overall the program has helped in bridging the deficit gap, the trust challenge that states find themselves in their attempt to manage state affairs.
Sorry, Mr. Okauru, again, for purposes of clarification, the SFTAS program is intended to get the states as a going concern. In other words, begin to run your operations, and if you get profitable, that's fine. You're able to meet some of your obligations. It is not intended to say, look, we are mopping up your debts. Is it?
No. It's basically, if you were to look at the physical health of a state, I think what this program is essentially saying is that there are some institutional mechanisms that must be on ground for things to work effectively. And there are some laws that you must put in place for things to work the way they are supposed to work. And that's exactly how they've pushed this. And they understand that in order to get things like that to work in this country, it's important first you get the chief executives on board, that is the governors. and equally get the network of principal officers below the governors involved. And so that is falling on us to reach out to these officials. I mean, whether you're talking of commissioners, special advisors, or a number of other heads of the different agencies responsible for this, whether it's in the area of managing debts or publishing the accounts as basic as that. I mean, it's falling on us to ensure that that happens. And the way it's designed, it's like participating in something. You need to meet certain basic requirements, which they call eligibility criteria, and to fit in, like publishing your account. I mean, putting it out there. I mean, and it's been discovered that that was not the case until this program came on board.
All right. You said this is not a gift to states. These are loans. Do we have any mechanism, monitoring mechanism, put in place by this program to monitor all the states and ensure that whatever grants or loan that they have is being adequately utilized? And in terms of payback, how does this loan, how is it going to be repaid?
Thank you very much. Let me first clarify that the grants to states is not a loan. The federal government obtained this loan for the purpose of sustaining the implementation of the fiscal sustainability plan. Now, states that meet the disbursement criteria or the eligibility criteria are then given grants based on their performance. These grants that are given to states are not loans. They are to encourage them sustain fiscal behavior that is believed that over time, if entrenched, will improve fiscal management of public resources down the line. So the money given to states based on performance, based on attainment of the disbursement link indicators, based on meeting the eligibility criteria, are never loans. They are grants to encourage performance.
Okay, in other words, the federal government, of course, approached the World Bank and said, you man, give us $750 million. She's so wealthy, she says, okay, federal government, we will give you this amount as a loan. Of course, I believe a long-term facility. Yes. So the money comes into the coffers of the federal government. Federal government will say, look, all right, 36 states of the federation, we need you guys to survive and to thrive, to be a going concern, as it were. But you will get so much from us as a grant if you meet the following criteria. That's correct? Fantastic. Now, when you say you meet certain criteria and then you are giving money to you, you man, explain this to us. Are these targeted grants? And then when you say, let's just assume a state is going to get $1 million, for performing well, on the identified criteria. Is that $1 million intended for use for a specific purpose, or it just goes into the state's budget? And then, from what we have seen, unfortunately, state houses of assembly are supine. They have very little control over the executive. So how is the money that comes from the federal government now, on the basis of a state satisfying the required criteria, how is the money targeted, or how is it required to be spent?
So the money goes towards the budgeted expenditures of the state. So those that are appropriated by the state through their annual budgets. Now, you recall this is a program for results. So the emphasis is really on achieving the results and the performance, rather than focusing on, let's say, financing of specific inputs and processes. I think this is a real shift in how we are working with the states in Nigeria. There's 36 states, we're involved in all of them. And we're moving towards this very much results-based approach, where there are very clear targets, very clear results, and if the state achieves them, they get the grants or the loans. In this case, it's a grant. Now, in terms of oversight of expenditures, well, if you look at the results themselves of the SFTAS program, they enhance transparency and accountability, right? They require publication of the budgets, they require publication of the budget implementation reports, the audited financial statements. So the results themselves, which the states have to achieve, themselves increase the transparency and accountability of what the government does with its money, whether it's from the SFTAS program or whether it's from the FAT transfers or whether it's from their own internally generated revenues. So it's really the program results themselves that enhance that accountability that you're talking about. And just to add to the point about debt, one of the results, very key results of the program, is states enacting the state-owned fiscal responsibility laws. So before the SFTAS programs, very few states had any laws that put any constraints on their borrowing. Through the program, we have 2/3 of states having passed state-level fiscal responsibility laws. That means that they set limits on how much they can borrow to fund their budget deficits. So it's the results themselves that supports this debt sustainability, this accountability.
All right, Mr. Okauru, are there mechanisms, put in place to ensure sustainability of this program?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that question. You see, at the heart of this program is the need to ensure sustainability. That's for us at the Secretariat and for us the technical arm, because without sustainability, it should just not be worth it. I mean, and I must tell you. The decision of the World Bank and the federal government to leverage the Governors Forum Secretariat is clear, very deliberate. This something we've done and we'll continue to do. We have capacity at the forum level to make this happen. I mean, we leverage convening power. I mean, now in terms of sustainability and for specifics, it's important that like you heard from Yeoman, and you have some laws that have now been put in place. They have gone through all the processes and they are there. There are some institutions that have been established right now as a result of this program. The implication of that is that when there's a change in government, whether one party moving to another party, it will be irrelevant. You just have laws and that are now applicable that we expect to run things within the state, whether it's debt management or your capacity to interact with development partners or do business with outfits out here. It's that, and we think that is key. Now, it's been possible too to adopt global standards. For instance, in the preparation of budgets, for instance, it's not been possible to really compare happenings from state A to state B. I mean, but right now, with the use of the National Chart of Accounts, I mean, we've gotten all the 36 states on board. It's now very possible to prepare professional budgets and to compare budgets from state to state. And of course, I actually align that with what is happening at the federal level. Again, the TSA, the Treasury Single Account, it's one of the DLIs actually requires that states establish that. And we think that has helped because there's been linkage between BVN and payroll, and that has reduced fraud significantly in the state. I can't see any governor, any new administration coming in to change that. I mean, we think that has helped, and that will continue to help. And then e-procurement is something we've put on the table. It's helped to bridge the gap, the trust gap, because things are now more transparent. And then governors now understand that you stand to make more money within the state. You stand to connect more with your people if you're transparent and accountable. I mean, and this program too, because they've all taken ownership, is helped in achieving that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Okauru. Who are the monitors of this program, Stephen Okon? Who are the monitors? Is it you as a national coordinator? Is it the World Bank? Or you have external monitors to be sure that indeed what the Secretariat is reporting back is actually the reality, and that we are seeing changes in otherwise financially basket situations?
Thank you very much. The first monitor of this program is the Independent Verification Agent, which is the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. Whatever results are claimed to have been achieved are first of all verified by this independent verifier. And it's not alone in this assignment. He is supported by an independent audit firm a third-party audit firm, which is a private sector concern. And beyond this, at the state level, we have the state steering committee, which is responsible for monitoring of implementation of this program, ensuring that the action plans are approved and that are followed through. And we also have the civil societies that are engaged to be part of the monitoring of this program. So generally, there is the official or the government channels of monitoring, and there's also the open channel of monitoring, which is being done by the civil society organizations.
All right, Human Lee, what have been the success factors? I know that all the states cannot be a par in terms of successes. In your calculation, how many states do you think are doing well, you know, and those that are not doing very well as you expected?
Yes. Oh, by the way, just in terms of monitoring, you yourself can monitor because most of the results require publication online of key documents. So you can actually go yourself as citizens and do that monitoring. So in terms of how well states have done, so we are very happy, we're very proud that all 36 states are now participating in the program. We say that no state gets left behind. And this is really the result of this very good technical assistance that is being provided to the states by partners such as the Nigeria Governors Forum. So this technical assistance is given to all states regardless of performance. And the idea is that this accommodates the diversity of states in Nigeria, the different starting points in terms of their capacity. So this is really a way to help states, you know, level up really and achieve that performance. In terms of the critical success factors, so I think there's a few. First of all, I think the program has done really well in establishing a mutual accountability framework and trust between the federal government and the states. The states have very clear results, time-bound, specific results that they need to achieve in order to get the grants. And then the federal government is committed to delivering the technical assistance and providing the grants on a timely basis once the states achieve the results. So that mutual accountability is established and going very well. Secondly, as Mr. Stephen Okon has mentioned, as a program for results, the credibility of the verification of the results is key. We don't want a situation where states get the grants for things that they haven't achieved. So that is absolutely key. Thirdly is the technical assistance, which I just mentioned, that this helps all states achieve those results. And I think the relationship, the partnership with the Nigeria Governors Forum has been critical, not just because of the TA, but through leveraging their platform to engage with the states on a continuous basis. So we're engaging with the states from the technical level all the way up to the executive governors. And I think that kind of sense of peer learning has been very important. And then I think lastly, because of the transparency of the program, all the results, by the way, how well each state has done, this is public information. So citizens and CSOs, they can compare state with other states very, very easily. And I think this creates a sort of healthy peer competition amongst the states. So I think those are some of the success factors.
All right, thank you, Yuban. Once again, Asishana Okauru, how much of this money has been disbursed, and what is the time delimited?
Yeah, the banker is here. She should.
Yes, so that we know we have an idea over what length of time are we looking at to say that this disbursements, would last.
This is a 3-year program, I think. Yeah, it's for 4 years actually, and it's supposed to lapse 2022. No, if you don't mind, let you answer that question, and I'll come to you for it. Yeah, that's right. Or Stephen, yes, who has the numbers?
Yes, please. So far, a total of $692 million, equivalent of about 262.3 billion naira, has been disbursed to states based on performance. It's not money that is shared equally. As explained earlier, based on performance on the DLIs, states are being given the grants. In the 2018 APA, 24 states benefited. In 2019, 32 states benefited. Then there are some DLIs that has to do with COVID-19, and almost all the states benefited in respect of that. But in sum total, money disbursed to states out of the $700 million is $692.3 thereabouts $1 million.
Okay, thank you. But Mr. Okauru, I'm sure you're familiar with publications from time to time in the Nigerian media, usually the newspapers, as to the groupings of economically viable states in the Federation. You will see sometimes they will say that only a few states are otherwise economically viable. Does the SFTAS pretend to address that question of economic viability?
What is this man's name?
Or it just ensures that they're able to run their finances well, whether they are poor or whether they are rich?
Place where you go, whether government or private.
Well, from my desk, I believe all the states are viable.
Don't make trouble, but make sure before you leave that place,
they may be challenged, but there are a number of things that could be done to change all that. And I think the SFTAS fits into that. SFTAS program itself fits into that. I do not think that, like you heard, this money is coming in as grants. It's supposed to help the states better structure how they do things at the state level, and I think that has happened and it's still happening. And I would want to say that a number of the states, if they continue on this path, would likely come up better at the end of this program. And that is why we think that the sustainability portion of it is pretty important. The COVID-19, of course, brought in some challenges in the country. It was not possible to meet face-to-face. So we found ourselves leveraging technology to help to get some of these technical materials communicated to the various states. In some other cases, we found ourselves organizing hybrid meetings to get these things done. But if you were to go around the states today, I tell you, a number of them are primed for a number of good things moving forward. They have basically imbibed the spirit of what you have here. And beyond that, you have a number of materials now available to the general public. That would keep challenging states and challenging our experts, university community, and a number of people within the country. So for viability, I think we're on track, and I think the states are.
So from all indications, all the 36 states of Nigeria are doing pretty well with respect to this program.
Did you write?
What is publicly available, Mr. Stephen Okauru,
address it to who?
Is the emasculation of local governments in Nigeria.
You get acknowledgement
Does
copy
this
here?
program in any
continue.
way seek to even indirectly address that, so that local governments, as envisaged by the Constitution, form part of the economic agenda of development of the respective states? Because I see that the focus is on governors.
Which same office? The same office where
government areas in the country. And ordinarily, it should be the bedrock of economic growth and development.
So they then called me from that office.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to think so, because any program that has to do with transparency, openness, and accountability actually speaks to good governance. So, in the course of the program,
go and recover the exemption letter with the
openness nature or the openness demand of this program. Whatever is being done that improves governance at the state level
sometimes
also goes to
this kind
the
method
level
now
of
how to
improving
destroy
governance
evidence.
at the local government
Continue.
level. I think this program, in a way, helps local governments get better
next batch,
in terms of
which
either participation in governance as well as delivery of
then went
governance.
to the ICT
All right,
department.
I just want to ask very briefly, are you satisfied with the implementation of the program so far, or do you have any concerns?
Well, we can always do better. But this program is one of the best performing programs that we're supporting government on. And as a result of the good performance,
make I call somebody.
Our board
my
has
wonderful, elegant, lovely, beautiful,
Pelekpelecious,
Igalicious, Opayecious,
in December of last year,
sister where they work with FCT minister,
can
they live for Maraba in
So we
Good
really
morning,
do hope that in the last 2 years of this program, the states will continue to perform, very well. And I think, all the partners are on board, ready to meet that objective.
What are the specific criteria?
Who am I to say no? Let's appreciate Dr. Jumai for this godly intervention. May God Almighty.
What is the COVID-19 response
Dr. Jumai,
component of all this?
I am using this
we
as
had
a
some
prayer
national
point.
Embarrassment over COVID-19
the way you
last year.
intervene
and one of the critical challenges we face arising from COVID-19, of course, has to do
in your own
with in-country vaccine production. So, what is this component about
Thank you.
COVID-19?
We are not continuing with this matter, sir.
There are some specific
solution has come by the grace of God. Go and sit down. Let's appreciate.
I'll give you 3 specific results. One, which I've mentioned already, the states having to pass amended 2020 budgets that allocated at least 10% of their budget towards COVID-19 response programs. Secondly, they implemented tax compliance relief programs for individuals and SMEs who were suffering from the shocks of COVID-19 last year. And then thirdly, there was a result that where states had to put in place emergency procurement guidelines, which enabled them to procure expeditiously goods and services for COVID-19 response. So there are very specific results that relate to COVID-19 response.
So they do verification of their certificate from their school. So some of them sit down and say school will interface with them. Many of them school never go back to the job, to the organizations.
And then now they lose the job. Even I go sue the school too.
So the team says some people don't know say from that end they happen. So at the time when you reach that stage, if you see things they delay,
walk out by yourself.
Go school, go find out to ensure that has been done so that you don't lose.
Let's appreciate you.
All right. So that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We do appreciate you.
Anyone will marry you, get lucky, Jerry.
Same time, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Hello, Your Excellency, distinguished Ambassador Potopoto, the Brekete family ambassador in the whole of France. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Chief Justice of the